This obviously has been a very ambitious agenda this year at the summit, and we have run 8 fantastic discussion forums that are really serving as deep dives into topics of interest to the delegates. And we had to run several of them concurrently the other day, and we've run a few others at the same time that we've done some keynotes and other major presentations. So most of you in the room haven't had the opportunity to attend maybe more than 1 or 2 of those forum discussions. So what we're doing right now is really giving all of you an opportunity to catch some of the highlights very quickly from all 8 of those sessions. So who we have on the stage here today are all of the folks who kindly moderated those sessions. I'm included in there. And I will have them introduce themselves very briefly, one at a time. So I guess my ask of all of you would just be, we can just go down the line here, and we're passing the mic. Just introduce yourself very, very briefly. State the name of the forum that you moderated, and then maybe spend just a couple of minutes on the highlights, some key points, things that you think the audience here who wasn't in your forum would want to take away. We're obviously working on limited time. I think we were originally scheduled to end this at 12:45, so you each have approximately 6 seconds to get your message out, and that's it. In all seriousness, take a few minutes. I know some of you. You all seem like very nice people. I'm even related to one of you, but I will not hesitate to use the hook if I need to. So I would like to first introduce Annie Hood, who's going to take it from the top and talk a little bit to you about her forum. And any questions, please hold till afterwards. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gerard. I'm Annie Hood, and I led the Wellness Tourism Roundtable Forum. A huge thank you first to all of those who participated. It's a very sparky and dynamic discussion, so I'll give you a quick overview right now. I think first I'd like to say it's been 11 very short months since the Global Wellness Tourism Economy Report was released. And the contents of that report has really propelled us forward within the wellness tourism industry. It's created hundreds, if not thousands, of media stories, and that has really shone a very bright spotlight on what we've done over the last year. The headlines and priorities were education at all levels. What is wellness tourism? Why is it important for governments, public and private sector, consumers? Understanding the scope of service and product within wellness tourism, and clarity and definition. That remains a challenge, and I think it's a challenge for many of us in many segments of wellness. And I think it's good to remind ourselves that the definition from the report was wellness tourism is travel associated with the pursuit of maintaining or enhancing one's personal well-being. And further to that, something that Catherine coined when the report was being collated last year, was that SPA is all about wellness, but wellness isn't all about SPA. There's more to it. SPA represents 41% of that wellness tourism industry, and I think it's a good grounder to recognize that there's so much more to it. Communication and messaging, continued media coverage, cultivating partnerships, and message distribution, and to build that awareness is needing more of a spotlight. Collaboration between public and private sector, hastening more knowledge and an informed picture, and outlining what isn't wellness tourism came up quite a lot in promoting that understanding. Taking advantage of the current status was also something that was a passionate point. There's a receptiveness that many people have already touched on through the last few days. And the receptiveness and awareness now that hasn't existed previously, and that's the reality rather of rising healthcare costs, both for public sector and corporate businesses alike, prevention, self-initiated health, protective medicine, and that has led really to a need and a priority to truly quantify the economic benefit to the bottom line of businesses when wellness within travel, and equally wellness as a daily pursuit is actually put into practice. What is the impact to the bottom line? We need to quantify that. There remains a perception for some that wellness tourism is something that's niche and high-end only. We do need to spotlight the mainstream and how we make wellness and wellness tourism affordable and accessible to the masses. Yolanda Perdomo was part of the Roundtable group, and she pledged the UNWTO as a vehicle for us to really expand the distribution and knowledge of wellness tourism, and we are in fact already an affiliate member of that group. Susie's already touched on some of the things that are ahead. A commitment from the Global Wellness Institute to continually update the numbers. So we have real numbers to work with all the time. Wellness evidence is going to be a great supporter in our mission. Continuing the education messaging, the roundtables that Susie spoke earlier about. And we have a wellness tourism series coming up at the World Travel Market in November in London. And following that, we'd like to further the series of roundtables as we go through into next year. So if there's anybody here who would like to host or be a part of a roundtable in that country, then do please talk to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Annie. I'm representing the Global Hot Spring Forum. This is the second year that we've had a forum. We had one last year in India. I would like to just do a little exercise first, and that is to ask all the people who are in the forum who are actually on the panel to stand up in this room if they could. I just want to do it as an exercise to show that the globalisation and the global breadth of the hot spring industry. So if everybody who are on the panel could please stand up. So we've got Axel Valdez Martinez, who's from the Hotel Buena Vista in Mexico. Alonso Burgos from Colca Lodge in Peru. Steve Chadwick from Rotorua in New Zealand. Tomonori Maruyama from Mitsui Research in Japan. Irwan Madik from Vichy Spa in France. And Mohammed Karim Janin from Sothemy in Morocco. So we have a great representation from right across the globe. We also had Catherine Johnson from SRI, who presented the findings from her research, or the initial findings, which showed that there was $50 billion industry in hot springs, and of which about 65% of that total turnover came from venues which offer spa services as well. One of the first things we did when was to summarise some of the things that came out of the last summit, and one was the getting a logo that represented hot springs globally, and this is a version of it, my flag I call it, and I take it with me when I travel around the world and visit hot springs, and you'll probably see on the summit on the site, the website in the coming days, this around hot springs in Morocco. So that logo is a hot spring logo from around the world, and it's available on the website. We also set up a Global Hot Springs Initiative, which is a monthly phone get-together with some passionate people from the hot springs industry from around the world, and that's been happening for about the last 8-9 months, or 10 months. And Amy McDonald, who's at the front here, maybe stand up, Amy. Amy McDonald is the person who is running that as a key contact. From the research, I'll just do a quick summary of one note from each of the country representatives. From Mexico, we got a picture of all of the hot springs in Mexico, and it was like everywhere across the country there were hot springs. It was just astounding, and we saw some photos of some really amazing hot springs there, and it's definitely on my list of places where I'm going to go, and I'm going to go there soon, I hope, hopefully in the next year. In Peru, we learnt that when the Spanish first arrived in Peru, they met the Inca king at a hot spring where he was relaxing and getting some respite, which he probably needed afterwards. At the Colca Lodge also, which is in Peru, they do a lot of collaboration with businesses around them, which is in the Colca Valley. They've got the condors which are flying there, and a lot of people go off and support the tourism industry around it, and there's a great flow on economic benefit to the local region coming from the hot springs. In New Zealand, we learnt about some major hot spring developments which are happening in the town of Rotorua, and Steve Chadwick took us through that. And we particularly learnt about the great connection between the Maori culture and the whole tourism industry in New Zealand, and in fact the whole culture in New Zealand. And I think it's a great example of how Indigenous culture can thrive, not just survive, but thrive in a tourism environment, and through hot springs is one way of being able to tell a cultural story. In Japan, We learnt about some studies of the use of hot springs and the fact that if you go into hot springs, that you actually lose weight without any need to diet and no need to change your exercise program. So you actually lose weight by just being in hot springs. And there were some actual research studies that came from Mitsui Research and Maruyama's his work. From France, we learnt that really the whole industry, and virtually the whole industry, is tied up in the medical and health side of treatments and treatment programs, and that nearly all of it is paid for by a combination of government and insurance companies. And insurance companies, if we can get them into the wellness space and to really get them on board, it's a good way to drive that industry, and France is doing it beautifully. They also learnt that in France, €2 from every person who does a wellness program, a hot spring-based thermal program, €2 goes into a research fund that the industry has set up, and those €2 have been, there's been a total of €10 million that have been spent on research over the last 8 years, and the forward-thinking French have made sure that all that research is actually available in English as well. I'll talk about that in a second, just in a summary. In Morocco, we learnt that there's 117 hot springs in Morocco, of which 7 are commercial businesses, and we'll be able to add a whole lot more to that in the coming days as we visit in the post-summit tour of hot springs and hammams in Morocco. We'll be taking photos and be able to add a whole lot more to the white paper that will come out of the hot spring, out of our forum. The key outcomes that came out of our studies, our forum, big outcome was the French data, which I was talking about a moment ago, and the fact that we've got evidence base for medical practices using hot springs. There's 8 years of research, and I, in the break just about 15, 20 minutes ago, I spoke to Erwan Maddox's boss and one of the directors of Vichy, and he gave me and said it was okay to share with everybody the URL where all this information is available, all these studies, €10 million of studies are available for us to be able to use. And it's up there. We've got great amount of evidence base that's available to...
Fantastic, fantastic. And just as a reminder, there are going to be white papers available that are going to summarize the highlights from each of these sessions. So as we continue on here, just in the interest of time, if everyone could just talk in only maybe 3 to 4 minutes max, the highlights, so we can get everyone to lunch at some point, because I know that I'm not the only one who's still dealing with the aftermath from last night's epic gala. So I think we have some lunch crowd in here, so thank you.
The very final thing is that anybody who's interested in the hot spring space, if they could come up to me afterwards and swap a business card, but also I have a copy of a music album which we created as at the creation of our hot spring, and I'd love to give that to anybody who's really interested in hot springs. It was done by Indigenous and local artists in our area. It's beautiful music, and I'd love to share that with people in that hot spring space who are interested in it. So I've got about 40 of them, so please come up to me afterwards.
Thank you, Charles. Renee.
My name is Renee Moorefield, and I led the session on corporate wellness. What's the spa industry's role in supporting, driving, being a part of corporate wellness? So I'm going to share with you the insights that our group gained. We used a World Cafe approach for our conversation. It was a very intimate, very dynamic conversation. We gave each other massages at one point of the conversation, so it was actually a really nice space for the conversation we had. And I'll share it to you from someone who is brand new to this conference and this industry. I'm coming from 30 years in the corporate wellness world, so I'll give you feedback from that perspective as well. So one of the takeaways that came from our group was the desire for industry leaders in the spa industry to come together around a higher purpose to drive well-being. This one seems like it's critical, important, vital, and after what we saw this morning with the unveiling of the Global Wellness Institute, seems like you all are on that path. So that was pretty exciting to see that happen this morning and hear about that unveiling. The second was a desire to collaborate as an industry to define the core value, the best offers you can make as industry to bring to corporate wellness. An example was given that it's easy to partner with a global corporation like a Coca-Cola company or a Nike or a Google and partner providing a particular treatment or supplement or something like that. But if you do that and the corporation uses that treatment within a toxic environment, it doesn't have any staying power, no lasting impact. So the example we used was, if you have a healthy fish and you put them in water that's toxic, they may swim along for a while, but eventually their breathing is going to be compromised. Same with this industry, to come together as a collaborative and say, what is the unique value that we can really offer to global and other-sized corporations around the world that would be uniquely us, uniquely this industry. Two examples that I can give you just from my experience on the other side of this fence, from working in global corporations for so many years. No matter where I go, whether it's food and beverage, pharma, healthcare, what I hear over and over and over again is the level of burnout of employees and the level of burnout of the executives running these companies. And as you know from common sense, and as we know from the research we saw this morning from Danny Friedman, get that right, Friedland? That what we know is the best decisions for the business and the best decisions for our planet are not being made from reactive, myopic, compromised states. One of the things that your industry has is knowledge, expertise, practices around rejuvenation. You have a core capability in the science and practice of rejuvenation. That would be an offer that I'm sure you could be making to global corporations that would really hit a mark, that would make some sense to these organizations. We just did a recent study of a very large global system, and the one thing that was their lowest mark when we looked at many factors regarding well-being, a culture of well-being, was the lack of rejuvenation. So that's something that you could be bringing to global corporations. The third thing that came out of our World Cafe was role modeling, the demonstration by organizations in the spa industry to be living it. So that this means not only role modeling for individuals, for your employees, having the opportunity to take care of their own work, their own life, their balance, their sense of integration, their sense of wholeness themselves, but also integrating wellness as an ethic within your vision, your strategies, your principles, your practices, your supplier relationships, your standards for success, everything you do. So this clear role modeling and demonstrating that commitment was another thing that this group felt was important. And the last thing that I'll mention here is to seek dialogues between industries. So this is a fabulous, and again, this is my first time here, so I have been delighted to be a part and to learn about your industry. It's a fabulous collaboration of so many parts of the spa and wellness industry. This is also happening, this kind of conversation, because I've been part of it, in Consumer Goods Forum, in pharma, in food and beverage pockets. So where are the intersections that could be happening between industries, and what power could be happening right there if these other industries were convening that kind of dialogue to drive the well-being agenda? So that was the fourth thing that came out of our group. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Belgin Aksoy. I had the privilege to co-chair the Destination Spa and Wellness Retreat Forum with Sally Frankel. Sally, thank you. We had the topic creating a bright future together, and there was great interest in this topic. We had a standing room, so I thank to everybody that came to our forum. And the forum came up with some important takeaways. One of them is creating a community education center to cross-pollinate with the healthcare industry, to better the lives of our employees, and to pool our resources to find ways to give back and share the wellness message with the masses. The forum underlined that the biggest health threat facing the world by the year 2030 will be depression, and how spreading the message of wellness can help combat it. Following the steps of the wellness warrior, Deborah Zeke, we agreed to create a global wellness day that the spa industry can lead the world in celebrating. So the entire room agreed to say yes to wellness on the second Saturday in June every year. And here's what you can do. Pledge with us to become an ambassador for Global Wellness Day in 2015. Each of us in this room, product companies, spas, corporations, designers, educators, entrepreneurs, can make a commitment to invite their community to become a part of that special day by changing just one thing in their lives. Deborah Zeke invited us to lead the way by committing to do even simple things like do good deeds, drink more water, shop locally, eat organically, walk for an hour, stop using plastic bottles, invite local doctors and nurses to come for a free massage, have a family dinner. This is a simple way for each of us to make our dreams for a better future start to become reality and begin making a real change in our communities. The website is www.globalwellnessday.org, and I really would like to ask something now. I might close my eyes, actually, and because I'm so surprised. I'm actually so excited to see what's going to happen. If you say yes to Wellness Day, please stand up. Thank you so much. This is, I have to make a selfie of this. This is just so great. We opened our forum saying, a dream you dream alone is just a dream. It's what you dream together that becomes a reality. So this is becoming a reality, and it is really happening. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lori Hutchinson, and I'm representing the Education Forum. And along with Jean Guy and Stacy Conlon and Mary Tabaki, we presented information about staffing issues and education issues that face all of us in this room. And yesterday, we heard from the SRI pros that our industry does face these major challenges, even threats to our success and our growth. One is education, and the second is workforce recruitment. As an industry, we have lots to do on both fronts, as I'm sure everyone knows here. We added in the last 6 years in the world 36,000 new spas. There are currently 35,100 hands-on positions available in the US alone. So how are we going to find enough staff to fill all of our staffing needs? How are we going to give them the tools to be successful? Consumer demand is increasing, and frankly, we are way behind. I'm sure we all know this. We need serious attention, and help by all of us is needed. Since last year's summit in India, Spa Education Initiative members have worked hard, and we have some good news to share. We formed an advisory panel of global spa leaders who provided us their opinions on this giant challenge. We have created the start of a new website. It's called spaandwellnesscareers.com. It's in progress, so you can't see it yet, and we do need some sponsors to take it to the next level, but we're very excited about it being a move towards all of us working together rather than each company working separately. The website has available positions, resources for people, success stories, education resources, and we've also created a video infographic, which of course we hope might win, but who knows. And it is to attract and entice and encourage more people to join our spa and wellness industry. Eventually, we'd like to have a social media and PR campaign worldwide using this video and the website to basically entice and encourage more people to join us. Stacy Conlon was very instrumental in these creations. Jean-Guy de Gabriac, Anna Bergstrom, and their team created a fantastic and doable worldwide global mentorship program. They've recruited 16 mentors all over the world. They have mentee and mentor guidelines, and this mentorship program is going live very soon. We've created also a 44-page comprehensive internship manual and spa position profile that any company can modify for their needs in creating an internship or management training program. I'm very happy to email you the information, and you'll see how you can email me on a piece of paper very soon. Velko Savic of the Ritz-Carlton made this happen on a volunteer basis. We need more companies to offer spa internships. It's something our industry is very lacking, and other companies have figured out the win-win of internships, and they've made it happen. It's time for us, our industry, to do this too. C.G. Funk of Massage Envy, our co-chair, and I thank Anna, Jean-Guy, Stacy, Deborah Locker, Jason Palmer, and Velko for the extraordinary work they have done. Thank you. If Jean-Guy and Stacy could stand, that'd be great. And Anna, I don't think she'll stand, but maybe she will. All right, thank you, thank you. We need a lot more action to make a dent in these challenges. Here's where you come in. You will see pieces of paper coming your way soon. Please pick them up and look at them. The top paper lists call to action points for you to do now on your own. Don't read that first sheet now, though. The second paper is to fill out what you can do to assist us. Please do fill it out and give it to Stacy or Jean-Guy. Will be at the exit doors, plus my wonderful husband, Bill, when you depart. And we'll be standing there smiling at you and hoping to take your completed sheet of how you can help us move to the next level. Let's fast forward to 2015 when we meet again and cheer and congratulate everyone in this room for whatever results we can achieve, and I'm sure they'll be winning. It's a giant challenge. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Edie Weiner, and I moderated the panel on wellness and pornography. Oh, that wasn't this meeting? That was, okay. Actually, it was the hotel
Who invited
wellness.
her? I mean, who invited you?
I actually moderated the panel on hotel wellness and hotel spa forum. And so we had three wonderful representatives from the hotel business, Brian Povinelli and Andrew Gibson and Adam Glickman. And so I'm going to give you the top takeaway from each of those and then the top three takeaways, as far as I'm concerned, from the whole panel. From Brian, the top takeaway we had was the focus on personalization. He did have a quote, which I loved and wanted to give to you, which is, renewal is a moment, but wellness is a lifestyle. And I thought that was really illuminating in terms of the whole focus of this. He did talk about knowledge about the customer combined with technology will help deliver the ideal experience. And the technologies that were examples of what he was looking toward were beacon technologies, which are the location-aware technologies, wearables, guest recognition, for example, facial recognition with data through Google Glass. But he did spend a lot of time focusing on the notion of intuitive connection. The idea that we, in order to personalize, in order to know somebody, there needs to be a good measure of intuition. And I thought that that melded nicely with what Dr. Friedland said this morning, which is that service is a transaction, but hospitality is a dialogue. So thank you, Brian. Andrew Gibson was fascinating because he focused on the difference between active wellness and imperceptible wellness, not passive, because he was trying to find a better word for that, but imperceptible wellness. And basically, that means that which becomes part of the ecology of the hotel and the spa. It attaches to the scientific understanding of every one of our senses, fragrance, lighting, sound, touch, and it permeates the air, the water, the actual physical property, the floor, the walls. Everything around the people in the hotel and spa should be living stimulants of all the senses in a positive way. And I thought that was a beautiful vision for the future. Adam Glickman focused on the idea of knowing your customer as well as knowing your team. What do they all really want, customer and team? What products and services are possible for strategic alliances once you have that knowledge? How can guests be encouraged to detox and deplug from all the technologies and stressors so they can truly have, and the team can truly deliver, an experience of wellness? And so those were the top points, I think, from each of our panelists. But in combination, there were 3 additional points that they made that overlapped. 1, to be authentic, associates must be seen in the same way as guests, and they must be given the same access to the well-being that is offered to guests, so that the distinction between those who work with and for you and those you serve that come as your customers should really blur. Second was that true wellness goes beyond the food, the beverages, and the amenities that are now offered. If the wellness promise is to be truly delivered, it will leverage all we know from the sciences like brain imaging, sensory understanding, nutrition, and body differences to bring wellness to a truly authentic and holistic level. It's really walking the talk and not just pretending to. And the third overall takeaway was that intelligent technologies, such as robots that deliver to rooms, mobile check-in and keys, and avatars that can attend to people with special needs or language differences, will be there, but they won't replace service personnel. However, they will free them up to do the truly personal interactions that will make the experiences surprisingly healthy, wonderful, and authentic. And I thank my panel.
Hi, I'm Cassandra Cavanah, and I had the pleasure of being on the Hydrothermal Forum this year. In fact, it wasn't really a forum, more of a presentation where we had the distinct privilege of introducing the first ever standards manual to come out of GSWS. I know Susie spoke about it earlier, so I'll be brief because lunch is waiting us. The need for this guide was brought about by the industry itself at its first ever forum meeting in 2009 in Switzerland. The industry, many of them who probably hadn't spoken much amongst themselves, they were put together in a room to take on the question of what can we accomplish together that we can't do alone. They all felt like this guide would help what they were all seeing as many problematic installations that were occurring and the costly mistakes that were going on in terms of hydrothermal builds. So this is really a result of everybody working together to forge a better direction. And we've come a long way in 5 years. This heavy manual came together with the help of 14 collaborators. Once you do download this, which you can do on our website, I encourage you to appreciate the fact that a lot of people played a role. This is a look at some of the folks that were participating, and the nice thing about this book is it's a living, breathing document that will evolve with time. We encourage you to read it and participate in it. We would love to have more contributors. So please do download it. It's available on the website under the resources tab on the GSWS website. I really wanted to give a special acknowledgement to Don Genders from Design for Living. Can you stand up, Don? Thank you. It was really Don's vision, and I understand I know he took it to the end with me, and he started this incredible endeavor. And I think a lot of people in the room initially thought it could never happen, and it has. So it's great what the forums can all do together. So I just really want to thank everybody who took the time to do it, and to say that this is a great example of joining together and shaping the future as we do here at the summit. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassandra. Okay, to all of you who I have not met, I am Jared Weiner, and I, last but not least, had the pleasure of moderating this morning the forum entitled Wellness Communities and Wellness Living Real Estate. And interestingly enough, this is a topic that hasn't really been explored in great detail in past summits, and I think this is a really rich topic that's probably going to be explored in even more detail in future summits. And we had 4 fantastic panelists that were really talking about this concept of wellness communities. And what I thought was really, really interesting about this, above all of the other highlights, was that it sort of organically built in concepts from both of the keynotes yesterday. We were talking about concepts that came right out of Shell Nordstrom's keynote, and we were talking about interesting concepts that came right out of Bjarke Ingels' keynote. And we framed it initially as a conversation when we think about what Nordstrom was talking to us about yesterday and where we're going with urbanization, and citing all of those statistics, and then understanding that we are, as he called it, living alone together increasingly. I wanted to frame the conversation with these great panelists by basically identifying where wellness communities, so to speak, are going to live in the future. Are they going to be oases that physically exist outside of urban environments? Are there going to be micro wellness communities that exist within urban environments, for example, within one physical structure? Are there going to be entire cities that are built as wellness communities, which we're now starting to see examples of? And then finally, are we going to see virtual or digital wellness communities that are completely separate from the built environment and essentially redefine what we think of as a wellness community? So with that frame in mind, we had a few interesting discussions. Steve Nygren was one of our panelists, and he and his wife Marie have created Serenbe. Many of you have probably met with them and are familiar with that. But Serenbe is a really fantastic concept that I think serves as a prototype for what these kinds of wellness communities could be in the future. It is a 40,000 acre community built really just outside of Atlanta, only about 20 minutes. It's on farmland. And it addresses all aspects of wellness holistically. So it balances development with nature. And it's a community of people living in a community of trees, as Steve puts it. And it's a community of food, of art, of education, of health, of meditation. And unlike many traditional health communities, because we wanted to push the discussion forward, which are really based around older residents, and health and medical issues and things like that, which is the paradigm we want to get away from. This is a cross-generational community with many different backgrounds, political views, etc. And they really do share one thing, and that's a commonality of values as it comes to the sense of community, and as Steve put it to me the other day, a sense of hope. So I spend a minute talking about that here, even as we hurry to finish this up, because I think that Steve and Marie's model is a really interesting concept that's redefining wellness, because they are now going to build a spa, a destination spa, and increase their traditional wellness programming. But this community was not built around the concept of wellness as it's been defined even in many places here at the conference. It's built in a very holistic concept of wellness using art, nature, etc. Some metrics attached to this. Currently, there are only 500 acres of the land that have been developed, so there are great other opportunities there. In 48 hours, they sold their first 20 units, so there was immediate commercial opportunity there. So this wasn't something that they had to really struggle to pitch to people. They had buyers immediately. And when you talk about health outcomes, it's really interesting. They have a 0% asthma rate among their residents. They have lowered rates of behavioral drugs being prescribed to children who move to the community from other communities. And they've seen evidence of improved lung capacity, and even 3 women, this is very specific, but 3 women who thought they had fertility issues, including one who's 47 years old, have moved to this community and have now been able to conceive children. So you're talking about a community here that not only is holistic about wellness, but has metrics attached to it. We had Paul Schala, who is actually still in the Medina running his session right now, and he was the founder of Delos. And Delos has done some of the coolest stuff that even us in our shop as futurists we've seen in the last few years as far as real sustainability in real estate. And he says that sustainability in real estate, in the future of real estate, is going to go well beyond LEED and environmental and all of those concepts and green, but it's really about the sustainability of homes, of the built environment, of people, of our brains, and of our bodies. So it really does take into account our biology and brain science. And so Paul's doing a lot of very innovative work in sensory systems and in manipulating light and temperature and sound in built environments. And he even helped reframe the discussion so we weren't just thinking of wellness communities as places where people live, but a lot of their most disruptive work is and will continue to take place in commercial environments. Hotels are obviously included in there, but also schools, hospitals, and most importantly, office buildings. So Steve is actually, Paul, excuse me, and his colleagues have actually convened experts in several different fields, including design, architecture, medicine, and sustainability, to create a 250-page handbook for well building standards. And they've created something called WELL certification, which they hope is going to become a standard globally for how people construct and design. And this ties into the whole presentation we saw yesterday about cutting-edge architecture. And WELL certification hits on seven macro variables, including water, air, light, comfort, nourishment, and mind. Overall, he said that there was only a 1.5% premium in addition to cost to construct CBRE's new state-of-the-art office facility in Los Angeles. And it's been rated on 50 different performance criteria for having WELL certification. So I thought that was really interesting. Just a couple more quick metrics to attach to the work that Paul is doing, because again, I think it's important to understand that in this subject, we are not just talking blue sky about what could be, we're talking about ultimately the delivery in health results and to the bottom line. I'm just gonna pull this up here, I apologize, we had this forum this morning, so I haven't had a chance to consolidate my notes. He cited these following statistics. There are 25% premiums on wellness hotel rooms or stay well rooms at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. They invested $2,400 per room to make these rooms stay well rooms, and the company broke even in only 6 weeks. There is a well signature student housing complex that has been commanding 17% premiums, and home sales have increased on 30%. With only a 2% overall increase to the cost of construction for homes that adhere to the standards that he's talking about. So you really see that across sector there are actual economic and tangible benefits to this. And just very quickly, some other terms and points that came up that I think are interesting that people gravitated to. The concept that Edie talked about before that came up in her panel, where they talked about imperceptible wellness. I think when we think about the built environment and real estate and wellness communities, the value is going to be that the wellness is completely imperceptible to the person experiencing it. It's not going to be overt. It's going to be the sort of thing where there will be wellness goals and metrics assigned to something, and someone is completely unaware that it's even happening. Ultimately, this has an economic payback because as you continue to make people healthier and as you continue to cut energy costs, you can then start to discuss the economic viability long-term of a lot of these sorts of things. We did have a question about whether or not wellness communities were going to be socioeconomically viable to people in all different strata and classes. And the reason we talked about this was because we heard you loud and clear at this conference several times. People have mentioned that there is sometimes sort of an elite kind of tag attached to spas and similar services. So we asked that question, and admittedly, it was a difficult question for the panelists to answer, because this is the same type of thing that I think ultimately we'll have to prove out to the people who can afford to play in this ecosystem, but then as costs drop, this will become something that eventually benefits everybody. So if you have a well city with several different types of people living in that well city, eventually the idea is that all socioeconomic classes are going to benefit from that. And two other terms I loved, and then we're going to wrap up. One of the panelists asked a fundamental question, which is how do you coordinate home ownership with what he called health/wellness ownership? So how do you basically reframe the conversation from owning a home to basically taking ownership of your health and wellness by, for example, living or working in one of these types of structures? And there were more points than that we'll put in the white paper, but it was a really interesting conversation, and I think we are just seeing the beginnings of being able to discuss this topic here at the summit. I think it integrally ties into everything that's on the program. It tied into the keynote. So I just want to give a quick thank you, if they're in the room, to the 4 panelists who took part in that today. And I want to wrap this up. I think we're right on time, amazingly enough. I want a big thank you to the 7 other forum moderators who are sitting up here with me today. Thank you for those report outs, and thank you very much, and we'll see you all at lunch.